Alrighty, people, checking back in with the XTEN Control. It's been about a month of play, had some extensive hours put on this thing, and I have my final thoughts on it. Special thanks again to Lethal Gaming Gear for keeping this thing stocked and shipping this all the way out to Canada here in the Great White North. So thanks again to Lethal Gaming Gear. So yeah, just starting off with some of the basics. This thing is about an 18-inch by 15, just a little over 15.5-inch mouse pad. So 416 millimeters by 400 millimeters. It is about 3 millimeters in thickness. So ultimately, this thing is a really spongy cloth textured mouse pad. What I love about this mouse pad is that it's really rigid, and this rubber base really stays in place. Like it's rigid, so it's not going to flop over, and it feels great. Like this top texture after just a month of play, very little wear. I think I have a part here where it was stained. Yeah, I mean, this thing has been a fantastic mouse pad. In my opinion, it does feel a little bit like the Artisan Zero, maybe even a little bit rougher, a little bit more rigid than an Artisan Zero. The initial friction on this thing is a little bit controlled compared to an Artisan Zero that I find. So that push right from the get-go, it's got a little bit of that resistance, but really controlled. Once you start moving with this thing, it's seamless. Like it just glides across the mouse pad. So this thing has been a fantastic mouse pad altogether. And I guess sizing wise, compared to the Artisan Zero here, obviously it's a little bit smaller. I quite prefer the XTEN Control size just because it's not too massive. I'm not a huge arm aimer as well. I play on a pretty high DPI, 1600. And when I'm moving with this thing, given that the XTEN Control has a little bit more texture compared to an Artisan Zero, I actually feel like I have greater control with this mouse pad, with the XTEN Control. I quite like this mouse pad a lot. Like it's already replaced my SkyPad for my main mouse pad right now, which is interesting because they're two completely different mouse pads. The SkyPad being this super fast glide mouse pad. So, and then we move to the opposite side of the spectrum with a really controlled mouse pad like the XTEN Control. Yeah, I really like this mouse pad. I think just for comparison, the XTEN Control is really comparable to some of the offerings from Artisan. So I have the Artisan Zero Soft here, Artisan Zero Classic, which is also a soft, both in extra large sizes. This might be a really redundant comparison. At the end of the day, I think the Artisan Zero FX is really close to the Artisan Classic, but I feel like in terms of comparison, the XTEN Control is a lot like the Artisan Zero Classic, which just so happens to be almost exactly the same as the FX Artisan Zero. So I have the Logitech G Pro Superlight here, bone stock, to try these out with. Again, you have a little bit more of that texture, almost like a locked in feeling with this mouse pad. So there's that initial resistance on the XTEN Control, that initial resistance when you initially push on the XTEN Control, that actually gives it that locked in feeling, which is actually pretty helpful. I think it helps you calibrate your aim a little bit better on the XTEN Control. Whereas something like the Artisan Zero, there's not a whole lot of that initial friction or static friction. But yeah, essentially when you push on an Artisan Zero FX, that initial push, you're not met with a whole lot of resistance. So it's controlled in a sense and has a lot less of that initial friction. But the control is, I'd say, about the same as the XTEN Control. Just a little bit of a push. I'd say these mouse pads are all really similar, right? And given how rare and how difficult it is to get an Artisan Zero right now, the XTEN Control is a perfect alternative here to like this thing. It's got a little bit more texture to it. It's rigid. I like the base on this a lot. This thing doesn't move off my desk. The Artisan bases, I'm not a huge fan of. Like these things do slip and slide, especially the FX ones. These things don't grip very well to my desk for some reason. Really like the XTEN Control. I have been doing pretty well on these Artisan mouse pads too. So in terms of control, these things are just as, I think they perform just as well as the XTEN Control, but I guess more recently I preferred the XTEN Control just because I think I'm used to the way this mouse pad feels. Like it's like the Artisan Zero mouse pads actually feel softer than I had remembered. Initially when I purchased the Artisan Zero, I had got it in mid, so I'm not sure if the softness in the Artisan mouse pads had changed, but the Artisan Zeros are actually a little bit softer and actually feels really nice on the skin. The XTEN Control has a little bit more texture. I actually kind of prefer it. It helps that feeling, that sensation of when you're moving across this thing, you're getting a little bit of the feedback from the mouse pad, which really helps with my aim. But let's just talk about some of the more awkward things about the XTEN Control. I think firstly, this thing is ridiculously expensive. Like it's $100 for a cloth mouse pad. That's, it's, the edges aren't stitched, right? Like, after shipping and after taxes and everything, after the conversion, this thing is about $150 in Canadian dollars, or I should say 150 in Canadian pesos, right? So this thing is expensive. It's stupid expensive. Like I have my own reservations with the pricing. I think for $100 where you get a quality handmade mouse pad and the workers are actually receiving a fair compensation in terms of manufacturing this mouse pad, I think it's worth it. Like that's the price of admission for getting quality goods, right? It beats spending $100 now versus $20 on 10 different crappier mouse pads. To me, this feels like it's justified. Like the cost feels like it's justified. You get this sweet packaging with this art here. The mouse pad itself doesn't come folded up or anything like that. And I think only deranged mouse pad enthusiasts would really go for a mouse pad like this, or actually go and spend that much on a mouse pad. But to me, I feel like this is worth it. When you throw one of these on the XTEN Control, I think you're going to be unstoppable. This is actually a really sweet combo. Logitech G Pro on the XTEN Control. This mouse pad with this mouse is an incredible combo. I think another thing that's really awkward about this thing is that it attracts dust like crazy. Dust and hair. Funny enough, I do use it's like a horsehair brush to scrub this mouse pad. Usually you'll get like really fine dust or hair or fiber stuck in this thing. So if you use like a really soft bristled horsehair brush like this, you can actually scrub away that dust. So I really like the XTEN Control. Really expensive mouse pad, but if you're deranged enough to go out and spend $100 on a mouse pad, I don't think you'll be disappointed with this thing. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great mouse pad. This is actually a fantastic control pad. I can't recommend this thing enough. This is a really awesome mouse pad. It's been my main for the past month, and I don't think anything will be replacing it in the next little while. So I have been playing with the Artisan Zero mouse pads for the last week, and I'm gonna have to agree with Sway Louie on this one because these mouse pads actually feel fantastic as well. But I just think I'm more used to the XTEN Control for the time being, and I think with a little bit more use out of these, I think actually these are creeping up to be my main mouse that overtakes the XTEN Control. But you know, again, these aren't mouse pads, especially the Zero FX here. These aren't mouse pads that you can get really easily. The classic Zero, on the other hand, is really easy to get. Feels exactly like the Zero FX, just without the stitched edges. And this thing is obviously thicker than the FX Zero Soft. Funny enough, they're both soft and extra large. But yeah, all in all, XTEN has made a great control mousepad here. This thing is easily top tier in terms of a control mousepad. Funny enough, I actually picked up a few other XTEN control pads. This being their G Cloth, which is a balance pad. This one here being a speed pad as well. I actually picked these up from Amazon Japan, which you can actually get the XTEN Control on Amazon Japan as well. But you know, special thanks to Lethal Gaming Gear for sending this out. Like you're gonna get this thing pretty fast if you're in the United States or Canada and you opt for express shipping. So big fan of the XTEN Control. I can't say enough good things about this mouse pad. It's a fantastic control pad that you should try out if you have the money for it and you're as deranged as I am. It's a great control pad to go for. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with that for now. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. It is free. It is on me. But hopefully we catch you guys in the neighborhood again. Thanks for watching, guys. Hello.